Everyone, welcome to Cash Flow Club. And in this short video, this will be as short as I can make it while still making it useful. There's only a few slides, about 20 some. And basically, this is an overview to our 90-minute Cash Flow Club workshop. In that, we go into some great detail on each of these, but I wanted to introduce this so that you have a sense of why we do what we do and what exactly it is that we do. So Cash Flow Club, we created it to help local businesses. I'm not going to use the word small, medium, large. I'm going to say local. And by that, any business that supports others in our community, I'm going to give that the definition of local. So we want to help local business. And in Cash Flow Club, we focus on three core areas, which is inbound cash flow, outbound cash flow, and managing cash flow. And generally speaking, what we're looking to do is increase the quantity of inbound cash, increase the speed of inbound cash, and on the flip side of the coin, we want to decrease the quantity of outbound cash and decrease the speed of outbound cash. And that's really, really basic, but that's how a business can survive and thrive. So under inbound, we go into some detail. We're going to share some examples of how you can increase cash flow. We're going to talk about new revenue streams or additional products or services, bundling, membership programs, sharing educational content, edutainment, which is educational entertainment. We're going to talk about how you can get paid faster. That's the accelerate over here on the inbound. And then we're going to create some systems. We're going to make sure we've systemized our inbound cash flows so that no matter what happens in the world, our business is still generating cash. And then on the outbound side, we're going to talk about how do we decrease the cash going out. We'll give you some tips and ideas how to reduce your spend. And then we're going to talk about decelerating. So we want to slow down the cash going out. And then last but not least, under outbound, we want to optimize. And that's where we use a budget or some other tool to ensure that we're paying as little as possible, but enough to keep the business, keep the lights on. And then under manage, we're going to talk about savings, borrowing, and investing. And those are three areas I think a lot of people, they don't understand how saving money can apply to your business, how inbound and outbound can affect your savings. Obviously, borrowing, most people are familiar with borrowing, but we want to make sure we're doing the right kind of borrowing for the right kind of things. And then once we have surplus cash in the business, what's the best way to invest it to make sure the business is thriving? And sometimes that is investments like capital. You know, we're buying a building, we're buying equipment. Sometimes it's investing in employees. Sometimes it's investing in the stock markets or in savings. And sometimes it's just putting money into a marketing plan. But what we're going to talk about the most under manage is understanding return on investment, how it's calculated, and how it impacts a business. So we're going to talk first, and for this short one, I'm going to cover inbound cash flow. How do we increase it? And again, this is not an all-inclusive, exhaustive thing. These are some things we talk about. The number one thing is offering new products or services to existing clients. Study after study after study shows that it costs 6 to 7 times as much to find a new customer as it does to get an existing customer to spend money with you. So think about what else do they need? What other problems or solutions do they want? How can you help them? So it's easier, less risk to add a new revenue stream to existing customers than it is to find new customers. So new revenue streams is my absolute favorite place to play. Usually there's something that is strategic or tactical or beneficial. Membership programs, I think some of the most successful companies on the planet have demonstrated time and time again that if you have a good, solid membership program, your business will thrive no matter what's going on. As I said earlier, offering some educational content, We want ultimately to increase our customers' average spend per purchase, and we want them to purchase more frequently. And believe it or not, if we get the first five things done well, doesn't have to be perfect, but it just has to be done well, it will help us increase the referrals in our business. So focusing on your favorite current clients is a great strategy to grow any business. I promise you, I mean that when I say any business, large or small. If you've got a few great clients, you want to clone them and find ways to add more value to them. Now, accelerating inbound cash is critical, and there's a lot of ways to do it. My top three are invoicing faster. So you need to have good accounting, bookkeeping records so that you can invoice your customers quickly. You want to have some online tools to track and collect payments. You want to make it easy for people to pay you. And in a perfect world, offer some sort of subscription service so that people can pay you monthly and it's set it and forget it. They don't need to worry about it. One of my favorite tools for that is Simplero. We're going to talk about that a lot in our workshop, but the idea is really simple. How else can you add value so that people want to pay you monthly? If you run a traditional service business and people come to you once a year, what could you do to make them want to pay you monthly? And by the way, that's a fun conversation to have. So that's one of the things we spend a lot of time on in our cash flow club, in the writing that we do, in the masterminds that we run, and in the workshops that we host. Now, systemizing inbound cash flow, we're going to get into that. That's having a system that just makes it easy for people to pay. One of my favorite software companies, I love their tagline. Their job is to absorb complexity and make it easy for people to pay you. So think about ways you could systemize inbound cash flow. Set it and forget it. Now, next, we're going to talk about decreasing outbound cash flow. This one is less exciting to me because it's fighting over scarcity. You're trying to keep the pennies, but it's important, so it's worth bringing up. My number one tip for decreasing your outbound cash flow is negotiating with vendors. Also, I recommend evaluating your budget and making sure you get a set return on investment or ROI for spend, and see if you can get preferred vendor and bulk discounts. When it comes to negotiating with your vendors, if you don't ask, you won't get. So get comfortable asking them, is this your best price? A friend of mine, he never pays retail anymore. Um, there's a negotiation in everything. And if you're not comfortable negotiating, maybe either learn how to do it or find somebody to do it for you. So the key is we want to pay what's fair. We want to pay for what we get, but we don't want to pay extra. And sometimes it's things like, negotiating better terms so that you can get a lower interest rate, things like that. If you don't ask, you don't get. Now, decelerating outbound cash flow, this is not a fun place. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but there are a few things you can do. And so here's my top five tips. Number one is negotiating with vendors. Again, if you could pay them in 30 days instead of 10, great for you. Just make sure it works for them. And the key is you negotiate it, you don't just assume. Negotiating terms, you can use credit cards, you can use bank loans. There are ways to slow down the cash flow. One of my favorites is if you can pay something on the last day that it's due by credit card. Most credit card companies, if you pay your balance in full, they'll give you 30 days interest free. So if you pay your vendors by credit card, sometimes you can get another 30 days interest free with your credit card payment. A big one for cash flow is if you are buying a long-term asset, you want to finance it with long-term debt. If you're buying short-term assets, you want short-term credit. But the reality is you never want to use all of your cash to buy, I know a lot of people want to be debt-free. They'll use up their cash to buy a new building or they'll use their cash to buy equipment. finance it and pay it out over time. Yes, you pay money and interest, but keep the money set aside. Either you can invest it somewhere, but at the very least, you're getting some leverage. And then sometimes you'll have a crunch. I've got to meet payroll Tuesday. You might want to delay all non-essential payments. If you have a prepayment on a loan, maybe you skip it this time, and you want to defer non-essential purchases. Maybe the truck you're driving or the vehicle you have in the business can hold off another year. Defer that non-essential until cash flow sorts it out. So these are just some fun little ways to improve your cash flow and give yourself breathing room if you need it, or if you're looking at massive expansion and you need to improve your cash flow. These are some tweaks you can make so that you look better for your bank. Now, optimizing outbound cash flow, this is gets into professional help. Usually you're going to have an advisor, a bookkeeper, accountant. You're going to need some spreadsheets. You're going to need some software. But basically, what you're looking to do is have a system in place so that your outbound payments are being paid on time. That means your bookkeeping and accounting is done regularly. I recommend that your business is always caught up so that you're never more than a day behind, because when you know what's going on in your business, then you can optimize your outbound payments and things. Now, managing savings, this is important. We want to recognize savings should be short term. Basically, you want to have some cash on hand in case there's, call it a float, call it the rainy day fund. But generally speaking, I like to recommend to my clients in short term savings, you should have 2 to 3 months of expenses. That way, if you've got anything unusual, it smooths it out. And we're going to talk about borrowing. I mentioned if you've got um, short term lines of credit, those should be used for short term asset acquisitions or inventory. If you're looking at a long-term asset like buying a building or buying big capital equipment, those should be financed over time, generally over the life of the asset. So one of the things I recommend is once in a while, whether it's quarterly or monthly or annual at least, look at your borrowing, look at your savings, and see if there's ways you can improve and optimize it through your business. And then, of course, you're investing. As I said, you should have a system in place. I'm a big fan of the return on investment. It's not the only thing, but relatively speaking, for example, if you have a portfolio and your stocks are earning you, 10% every year, could you earn more safely in your business by investing that same money into new equipment, new staff, things like that? So have a decision-making process so that you and your team know how you make your investing decisions. Again, return on investment is a good place to start. You also need to factor in risk and things like that. We'll be talking more about how to manage investing over time. But as a business owner, at the very least, you should be able to make a decision. Should I invest $10,000 in my business, or should I invest it in the stock market, or should I be buying real estate? You need a system in place to be able to make those decisions. Now, this is the part we're going to grow the most. I'm going to share some cash flow resources and things over time. This is going to be a big focus with Cash Flow Club. The resources we're going to share are things like podcast, any other podcasts that are out there, other coaches, other mentors. We're going to talk about books that impact cash flow, and we're definitely going to share our favorite software. Some of it is do it yourself type stuff. Some of it is just to get you having a conversation with your professional advisors. I can't stress enough, in business, you need professional advisors. So I would strongly encourage you to have, at the bare minimum, you should have a bookkeeper. You definitely should have a professional accountant. And as your business grows and gets more complex, you might want to look at having a corporate controller or a chief financial officer. As your business grows, you'll know when it's time to start adding, or you have the money to start adding those people. If you don't have the money for a full-time controller or CFO, chief financial officer, you can look at fractional options and find ways to grow your business so that you can afford that advice. The sad thing, most businesses fail because of cash flow issues, and it's usually because the owner doesn't know what to do or how to manage it on their own. So we'd love it if people want to work with us. We have a monthly Cash Flow Club workshop. We spend 90 minutes. We go into deep detail. We walk people through different areas of managing cash flow. That's going to be monthly. We love working with bookkeepers and accountants. We share our resources with them that they can share with their clients. So if anybody wants to get to know us, there's a link below. You can join our LinkedIn group, and we'd love feedback. So if you've watched it to the end, I just want to say thank you. I know cash flow is not always sexy. It's not the topic of the day. You know, a lot of people would rather part you with your money and have you spending it on social media or cold traffic, things like that. Our goal is to share common sense advice that helps local businesses. So if you're a local business, we appreciate you. You're making the world a better place in your own way, and I want to thank you. So we have a little link below. If you got some value or if you enjoyed this video, please share in the comments below. If you didn't get any value out of the video, I apologize. Clearly that was not our intent, but we'd love your feedback, and that's how we grow our business, is through word of mouth and introductions. If you know anybody, whether they're a professional advisor or an entrepreneur or business owner, that would benefit from having these kind of cash flow conversations, let's connect. Thank you.